In 605 BC, Judah found itself in the middle of a confrontation between Egypt and Babylon. To avoid the destruction of Jerusalem, King Jehoiakim of Judah changed his allegiance from Egypt to Babylon. He paid tribute from the treasury in Jerusalem and gave some temple artifacts and some of the royal family and nobility as hostages, including Daniel and his friends. However, in 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar actually laid siege to Jerusalem itself, and it eventually fell on the 2nd of Adar, 597 BC. The city, and with it the temple, were destroyed. The city gates and all the houses were burned. Almost 10,000 prominent Jewish citizens, like professionals, the wealthy, priests, and craftsmen, were taken into exile and forced to relocate to the city of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar left only a remnant of poor people to serve as farmers and vine dressers. The last deportation of the Jews into exile in 597 BC coincided with the utter destruction of their beloved city. In 539 BC, the Persians defeated the Babylonians, and many of the Jewish exiles, including Nehemiah, found themselves in Persia. Shortly afterwards, King Cyrus of Persia issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple. The first and main party is led by Zerubbabel in 538 BC. In about 4 years the temple is finished, and the Israelites are very happy. Many more years pass. The people in Jerusalem are poor, and the city and God's temple do not look very pretty. Back in Babylon, Ezra learns about the need to do something about this, and so a second party returns with Ezra about 80 years after the first party. They make a spiritual and religious restoration and reform. The book of Nehemiah takes up the story in about 445 or 444 BC. Nehemiah is among the Jews who had been exiled to Babylon but who had found themselves in Persia. Nehemiah has been serving King Artaxerxes as a cupbearer in the citadel or royal palace in the capital Susa. He hears from some of the Jewish remnant who have come from Judah about the state of the city. The temple has been rebuilt, but the walls and the city gates of Jerusalem lie in ruins. The city, and within it the temple, are defenceless. God speaks to Nehemiah and puts it on his heart to do something about rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. After much contemplation and prayer, Nehemiah takes his life into his hands and approaches the king, Artaxerxes, to ask permission to go back himself to Jerusalem. The king agrees not only to allow Nehemiah to go, but gives him letters of safe conduct to pass through the lands he needs to traverse to get there. Furthermore, the king authorises the supply of timber for the task and provides army officers and cavalry to accompany Nehemiah and his team to Jerusalem. Nehemiah inspects the walls by night, works out a strategy for rebuilding, and gets all the people involved.